Gentlemen, thank you very much. Wonderful to see again such a full house. Thank you so much. What a zechut. We thank very much the sponsors. I don't know who it is. It's pretty better that way. I treat you all equally. And when I don't deliver as many stories, I don't look at you guiltily, etc. I don't know, right? No, chas v'shalom. Thank you so much for the sponsorship. Hashem should bless the sponsor. I believe it's being sponsored for the protection of the chayalim, of our beautiful Arteinu HaKodosha. What a beautiful idea to spread some words of Torah and give that zechut away to others. Although, ki ner mitzvah, what do we say? What's the beauty of a ner? With Torah or? You can take 1,000,000 lights from the same candle. It doesn't diminish it whatsoever. When we duplicate our mitzvot, it's the most beautiful and special thing. We don't lose out. They gain, we gain. It's absolutely spectacular. So thank you so much. So it was for the protection of the Chayanim and for all of Am Yisrael. Bezrat Hashem. Hashem should see these beautiful acts of kindness and dedication and care that we have for one another. And Emet Hashem, that should indeed protect us. There's so much to talk about. Bamidbar, pre-Shavuot, etc. Bamidbar always comes before Shavuot. Why? There's so much to talk about. But one point, maybe just one point, and I also would like to say the story that I said from here in this room, but it was said on Shabbat, and Gideon tells me I didn't say it last week, even though I said it many other times elsewhere in different places, but I did not say it last week, which means YouTube lost out because, contrary to public opinion, I don't record stuff on Shabbat and send it out. So YouTube lost out, or the people that follow us on YouTube and listen to these words of Torah, which we thank you very, very much indeed. If you could comment, like, and subscribe, that would help grow the channel, but that's a different story, right? Thank you so much. Even if you just put a thumbs up, apparently then YouTube knows that our Torah is spreading more, so it's a good thing. But I'll try and say that story also. But one of the beautiful psukim on this week's parasha, the mitzvah of counting the Jewish people is in this week's parasha. Okay, so count the entire congregation, all of their families, right? So et rosh bnei Yisrael, right? Kol adat bnei Yisrael mishpachotam levet avosam. Everyone should be counted. The mispar shemot kol zachar, every male gulatam. Okay, everyone's got to be counted. By the way, that's why this sefer is called Chumash HaPekudim, right? It's noted and called Chumash HaPekudim, the Chumash of the counting. Okay, and in expressing this need to count, so the Torah uses the word Se'u et rosh, right? Lift up the heads, right? And there's a midrash that comments on this particular expression, and the midrash says the expression of Nesi'ut rosh, this expression of raising people up, it says it can either connote either to the greatest heights or the lowest depths. Why? Yosef tells, the Midrash says that Yosef tells the butler that Paro will reinstate him to his former glory. What does he say to him? He says, Yisa Paro et roshecha. Right? Correct? Thank you. Right? Good point. Right? Yisa Paro et roshecha means you'll be reinstated. But as Benji so correctly points out, he said exactly the same thing to the baker as well, which we know had a very different connotation. Yisa Paro et roshecha means it'll be the end of you. Hashem will take you, right? So according to the Midrash, this particular language used in the census means that there's a hinted message to every single Jew here. And I think this is so beautiful and so powerful to share before Shavuot. What's the language? The language here, Se'u et rosh, indicates that every single Jew has a very special opportunity, but it's a double-edged sword. It comes coupled with a very, very special responsibility. Right? People can have huge responsibility put on them, right? Huge opportunity, but with that huge opportunity, they can rise to fantastic heights. What you can do sitting here for the soldiers in Eretz Yisrael is undoubted. It's incredible. And as we'll go on to say and hopefully express in some stories and some real life experiences, it can be an enormous thing. But the same has to be said though, if you don't use that opportunity correctly. If you don't take it, chas v'shalom, people have opportunities and they squander them, that can lead to tremendous downfall. And that's why the Torah, says the Midrash on this week's parasha, uses the expression, employs the words, Se'u et rosh, lift the head. Because you have to know that you are, yes, an Am Segula, you're a people that will be afforded epic responsibility and opportunity to be able to be this Am HaNivchar, the ones that bring Torah to this world, that spreads Hashem's word. But you have to understand that that responsibility comes with a privilege, and that privilege has awesome responsibility attached to it. And chas v'shalom, if a person does not take it and the person squanders it, you could argue it may have been better off not giving to that person, right? They say a story of Rav Dessler. Rav Dessler was a young boy, arguably responsible for the growth of Gateshead, right? Rav Dessler answered the call. You know the story of the butcher of Gateshead, Rav David Dryan?
No
Scary
children.
story.
He
Sorry?
had no children.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Right? But, anyway, maybe that, well, yeah, he wrote 50 letters. I've said the story before, so I don't want to say it now that I'm short of time. I've got other stories I need to say, right? But when Rav Dessler was a young boy, there were 2 beautiful glass dishes in his home. I don't know, a pair of dishes, whatever it was. But all I know is that as a young kid, Rav Dessler broke one of those dishes, right? And when his mother found out, she admonished him, yelled at him, I guess. I don't know, right? She told him off, okay? And I don't know if he got a punishment or whatever, but he was, severely put in his place that this dish was broken. I can only picture a little Rav Dessler playing ball inside the house, maybe after his parents told him not to. I don't know, right? Who knows, right? But all I know is that Rav Dessler noticed that like a few weeks later, they had chickens in their home as well, right? And one of the chickens got into the house and flapped about and broke the other dish. And the mother just like swept up the broken pieces, right? She picked up the chicken, she put him back in his cage. And Rav Dessler said, you see, it's much better to be a chicken. Much better to be a chicken, right? He didn't get no punishment, he didn't go to bed early, he didn't get grounded, right? And Rav Dessler writes on his own reflection, even as a little boy, he said to himself, I made a big mistake. It's true that the chicken got less punishment than me. It's true. He said, but if I just think about the privileges that I have and that the chicken has, I don't scrounge out little bits of corn from the floor. I sit at a table. I eat like a melech. My mother prepares me good food, right? Arguably even chicken, right?
I get to serve a show.
Yeah. I get to sit at the table. I have a warm bed. I don't sleep outside in a crate. He realized his mistake and he concluded, even as a young boy, you can see what a philosopher he was, even as a young kid. He worked out as a young child, it's better still to be a human than it is to be a chicken. And the moral of the story is, yes, a chicken has got much less responsibility and much less to worry about, but it stays a chicken, there's nothing else. There's nothing more that happens, but a human being. And particularly as an Am HaNivchar, we have huge responsibility. We also have huge privilege, we have huge opportunity, but if we squander that, Hashem can turn around and say, why did I give you the chance? Now, I rarely do this from this position here, but I was privileged to be part of, a small part of an unbelievable organization that did a fundraiser this week. I'm not sitting here and fundraising, I'm not. I'm just saying what beauty can come about from challenging times. Chana is a wonderful, wonderful charity that raises money for infertility. And we, Gibraltar, are really good friends of Chana. We do a December fundraiser, we call it December. It's beautiful, it's wonderful. But once a year they do a rally, hire fancy cars and let people drive around. And the idea is when these people come back, you do a fundraiser and people give more because you've given them a fancy car to drive around in for a day and a half. And I've never been part of the actual organization, but because it was on our doorstep, I was asked to go and sing just a little bit, and I did. But I was also there for the dinner, and I was moved beyond words to see what Chana could do for other people. And what staggers me, I'm not going to talk about it now, you want to go see it, they have a website, they have stories, they have videos, it is extraordinary. But where does this come from? This comes from one person's story of when they were suffering on their own and they thought no one should go through this. Infertility, it's such a private journey, it's such a long journey, it's such a journey laced with unbelievable challenges, expenses, loneliness. They've now built a center in London where couples can go. It's so successful. The NHS in England now use them for consultation because they're so far ahead of the curve. If they are struggling with infertility cases, the government comes to this private Jewish charity. But where does it come from? It came from one person who struggled on their own and said, I can't let this happen to my anonymous brother or sister. And this was born. And you know what's magnificent? From all around the world, people come. And yes, they have a fancy dinner and there's good music and there's wonderful wines. But what happens? One person stands up and shares their story. The mission statement gets spoken about. And dare I say it, Ke'ish echad belev echad. Ke'ish echad, like one heart. They open their checkbooks. And this, do you know, just recently, again, I'm not paid, promoted for this charity, I'm not. Their 1,000th baby was born as a direct result of them being involved with couples that couldn't make it. They were able to bring about life into this world. This is what we speak about. This is what we are. We are the nation of Hashem, not to be able to brag about it. The truth is there is tremendous amounts to brag about. But it's a far greater responsibility. We have huge opportunity, and the opportunity is written black on white in some of the first Pesukim that we read about before we're about to go into Shavuot. Because this is who we are. Derachea darchei noam, v'chol netivoteh shalom. It's unbelievable. I talked about on Shabbat, I'll tell you the story that I was so moved by it. And then maybe I'll move on to one or two other stories as well. But these are the inspiring messages. But it comes about through challenge. It comes about with challenge. Think about it. Infertility is a challenge. Challenges come in life, and this is what Hashem does. He throws the challenges squarely in front of our face to see our response. Because if everything was hunky-dory, if everything was super easy, and everything went along swimmingly, it would be no gold star for us if we did well. So what does Hashem do? Hashem takes the Am HaNivchar, and what does he say? Atem tihiu matei mispar. You're going to be the fewest. The nations are going to pick on you. Everything. If it's not Jew news, it's not news. Correct? For other people being murdered, there's no genocide marches ever. Only when Israel's involved. We know this is obvious. Why does Hashem do this? And the answer is right here in front of you. Se'u et rosh. Understand that when we're about to be the nation that receives Torah together, first of all, there's a tremendous focus on unity. And unity comes as a challenge. You could ask a big question on this week's parasha. I'm not going to answer it, but you could ask a question. If we're talking about unity, why are we counting everybody separately? Why are the degalim given out? Everyone camped in their own area, right? Everyone given their different role. So a small direction of an answer might be, yeah, because if Hashem made us all uniform, unity would be an easy target. You have to understand what your strengths are, not my strengths. And my strengths are not yours. I need you and you need me. The very famous Chafetz Chaim, right? When he said on the bracha, Borei nefashot rabot v'chesronam. Interesting that we're thanking God for making us deficient, correct? Borei nefashot rabot, Hashem, He created many different souls, v'chesronam, they're all chaser. Every single one of you are incomplete. I should say it in this English, sorry. Every single one of me in this world is not good enough. Not. And he said there's a reason for this. Because if I give you a set given amount of talents, and I give different talents to somebody else, it induces unity. That's why you'll never find any word in the Torah. Every letter in the Torah represents one of the original neshamot, 600,000 that came out of Egypt. You'll never find a word like in English, A or I, or in Spanish, wa, I, right? You'll never find a one letter word, sorry. We at least need one another. And that's why, by the way, when one letter encroaches on another letter, the Sefer Torah is pasul. If you come into my area or I try and encroach into your area, no good. That's why if one letter is missing, the entire Sefer Torah is pasul. Let's say the whole of Parashat Noach is there, there's a letter missing in V'zot HaBracha, why do I care? At least, no, the whole Torah is no good. If one person doesn't understand fundamentally that they are irreplaceable to this world, the world can't function. If we allow teenagers to grow up in our community feeling worthless, we missed the point. If we don't move heaven and earth to try and bring one child into this world, we missed the point. And this is why connection between people is so important. Will it be challenging? You betcha. Of course it is. Try running a school in a Jewish community. You'll be endlessly hounded with issues and problems for trying to be good. I know, I wear the badge with pride. Try being a rabbi in a community. you'll understand there are going to be difficulties between people. Whether it's in business, whether it's in politics, it doesn't matter. But here's the answer. You know the famous story of this man who was going out to collect money, and you know the story. And he went to the richest fellow, and he said to him, I'm collecting money. And he was wearing boots, and it was in the snow, and he said, yeah, come inside. He said, no, I'm not coming inside. The Rav would not come in the house. Right? And he stands there, and he says, no, muddy, snowy boots, I'm not coming into the house. And he says, but Rabbi Hashem, freezing. He said, I know, just 2 minutes. I'm just going to stand by the door. He said, okay, so get to the point. And you know how it goes, right? And eventually he said he needed firewood for 50 families. And then he said, yeah, of course, no problem. Why did you say that first? He said, unless you feel what cold means, you're not giving. You understand there is a plight for Jewish people out there? It doesn't work to sit comfortably and say, Shalom Yehi Eli, at least I'm comfortable. Doesn't work. What we have to do is get into the mindset. Try and feel. And by the way, with the aid of storytelling and with the aid of connection, you're able to sit in front of someone else and let them express to you what they're going through. There's two sides to every story. And the shocker, we always think we're right. And sometimes, even though we're right, still you have to do things differently. Even though, let me tell you an unbelievable story. This is not the one I wanted to say now, but time is running out. I'll tell you an unbelievable story. There was a Kollel family in Israel. And they were industrious, they were hardworking, they were extraordinarily frugal. Extraordinarily frugal. And throughout the years, they had saved and saved and saved. And they were thinking about moving into a bigger home or whatever it was, but they had a down payment. Even though they had a home, but they needed to upgrade. They bought a small house, and then they were saving and saving and saving. They had about 350,000 shekel, which in today's money is probably somewhere in the region of 190 to 100,000 pounds, something on those lines, right? And then, they were not, I'm telling you, neither of them come from a wealthy background, neither of them got money from family. It was hard-earned money. And then there was a knock on the door one evening, and the husband of the father of the home sees his good friend there. And he says to him, what are you doing here? He says, I am desperate. And you know when someone says, I'm breaking, I can't. You see it in the eyes. He said, come inside, what is it? And the guy sits down, gives him a mug of coffee, whatever it is. And over this hot drink and a cake, he says to him, my life is collapsing around me. I am in desperate need of a loan. Somebody owes me money. And he starts giving his whole sob story. And he said, look, we're super good friends. I know you've got 350,000 shekel in an account. I know what some of you are thinking. Don't tell your friends you got money, right? That's not the moral of the story. Listen to this. He said, I know you've got 350,000 shekel. Please lend it to me. I'm not going to survive if you don't loan it to me. And this is how I'm going to pay you back. And he talked about all of his thing, right? And the fellow said, look, you're asking for my entire life savings and my down payment and my deposit on my next house. I need to move out of here, whatever. It was a long story. He said, I have to think about it. And then as he was sitting there thinking, why was this presented to me? Why did Hashem put this in front of me? This is what Jews do, right? We put ourselves second, we put other people first. I have to help my friend. He said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to give him 300,000 shekel. I'm going to do it. Right? I can't remember exactly, 300, 350. So he goes and he tells his wife, he's desperate. If you have to save a life, in kesef talveh tami. The word im is written in the Torah. You do it. It's not if, it's when. When you do it, you have to do it. And the guy said, I'm going to do it to you, I'm going to give it to you, don't worry, etc., etc. Okay, he lends him the money. And there was a payment plan, there was a due date, I think 6 months or whatever. And until the money came through, he kept calling, is it coming, is it today, I need it so badly, blah, blah, blah. That happens, right? And then when the day the money came through, he never heard from him again. And when the due date came by, he also didn't hear from him. And he thought to himself, okay, I'll give a week, 2 weeks, maybe it's not so easy to get all the money together in one go. Fine, I'll calm down. A week went by, a month after the due date went by, So now he said, you know what? Lo tihi elo kenosha, you're not allowed to, when somebody owes you money, don't hound them. But can you ask? I can ask him for it, So he picks up the phone to call him. And that phone number that he has for his friend is discontinued. And he thinks to himself, is it possible that my best friend would do this? Is it possible my best friend would do this to me? It's not. Right? It's not going to happen. So he says, he must have changed numbers. I'll call people around. Everyone he asks, the guy's disappeared. Doesn't know anything about it. Where he lives, not there anymore. Phone numbers, disconnected. Old house phone, disconnected. And it took a while for it to dawn upon this couple, this decent Kollel couple, that their entire nest egg that they had saved for many, many, many years, in all likelihood, was gone. And you should know, it harbored in their hearts a tremendous bitterness and a tremendous resentment. That's what you do to your best friend. That's what even if you can't pay back, you raise them, you pick up the phone, you raise your head, you put your shoulders up and you say, I'm really sorry, I can't back. I would give you anything, I will, I'll try, I apologize. If you owe somebody, do it. At least be a mensch about it, but not word. In kol ve'en onen, nothing. Astonishing, staggering. This guy had to come out of Kollel because they needed the money. He had to go and work. His wife needed to get an extra job. Not only that, they couldn't afford their payments that they currently had on their home. They had to sell their house. And this is like a mega collapse, having done nothing but good. And you should know life was getting trickier and trickier and trickier. And one evening, this guy, I think his name was Yehuda, he went for a little hitbodedut. He went on his own. And he said to himself, let's take all the emotion out of this. Let's take all of the human feelings away from this, if one can. Let's ask a practical question. Did Hashem do this or did Hashem not do this? And I don't want to get into this now, but if something happens to you, even though it was via someone else, Hashem wants you to go through it. Of that, there's no doubt. Everyone has free will. So let's say, Chas v'shalom, one Rasha wants to go and smack someone else in the face. They can walk down Main Street and pick anyone they want to slap. If they slap me, Hashem's talking to me. Why did that slap come my way? And he concluded, this is amazing, he concluded that Hashem was challenging him to forgive somebody else in pain. Even though they inflicted all this pain on them, he said, you know what? I think Hashem is asking me, can I forgive someone who was in pain? And he said, he came to the conclusion that he had to forgive. And he sat down with his wife and he said, I know we're looking for somewhere to live. I know we're renting for a short while. We're actively looking for a house. They only saw one villa. They saw one house. It was for 1.9 million shekel. And it was too much for them. They couldn't even scrape that together, right? The down payment for that. And they begged the woman who was selling if she could come down a bit. And they were in weeks and weeks of discussions. They saw the house, they liked the house. They thought they were going to have to move to an area which was worse for them. Whatever. Their house was in a great area, near the schools, near the shops, everything was good for them. They thought to get a cheaper house, they're going to have to move much further out of the neighborhood. They found this house, but it was just too expensive. Listen to this. He worked on forgiving his friend the day he and his wife agreed that they would do it together and that they would be mochel completely the 300,000 shekel. That means if the guy shows up with the money, say, it's been forgiven. Can you imagine? What a madriga is that? I know I can say the story. I have no idea what that means. Forgive the person 100%. The wife agreed with the husband that that's what we're going to do. If the challenge came to us, that's what Hashem wants from us. So they did it. They forgave him. You should know within 24 hours of doing this exercise together, and both of them, Belev Shalem, forgave, they got a phone call. They got a phone call from the person selling the house, and the person said, actually, I need to rush a sale. I'm prepared to reduce the sale price by 300,000 shekel within 24 hours. You should know 1.6 was something they could manage, and they bought the house. Now, I would love to say, by the way, the money came back. I can't say that. It didn't happen. But what I find staggering is that A, there are people in Klal Yisrael who walk amongst us who could do things like that, number one, and B, how quickly the Yeshua came. Let me tell you one other story about a Yeshua. This is crazy. Crazy story. When you think about the power of just one person, Sa'u et Rosh, realize how important you are to the Jewish people. Realize and recognize what you do, how much it matters. I know the address that this takes place at. Rechov Igrot Moshe in Yerushalayim, number 51. That's all I'm going to tell you, so I don't want to give too many people's identity away, right? But Rechov Igrot Moshe, number 51, there's an apartment there. Okay? Wonderful family live there. Beautiful family. Okay? And they had a very weird problem. Very weird problem. Listen to this story. By the way, I'm not going to have time to tell you the story I said on Shavous, but okay, I'll say for another day. Right? They had a problem. A sparrow came to their window, sat on the mirpeset, and started pecking at the window, chipping away at the window. So the glass was strong, right? But if you've ever heard the beak of a bird incessantly tapping on glass, woodpecker style, it can drive you crazy. Okay? So the family thought it was incredibly weird that this bird is coming and pecking on the window. So they thought, no problem, you open the window, you bang on the window, you shoo it away, and it'll go away, right? Wrong. They banged on the window, they shook the curtains, they did whatever they needed to do, and the bird kept coming back. So the wife thought, okay, it's crazy Meshuggah today, but tomorrow, no chance, right? The next day the bird came. The next day the bird came again. They shooed it, in anger they shooed it, they screamed at it, and it started flying back, they started making faces at it and waving their arms. Whatever they did, it may have gone away intermittently, but it came back for the majority of the day. And it kept pecking at the window again and again and again and again, and this went on for more than a month. For more than a month. So the family thought, maybe it's a Gilgul neshama. I bet some of you are thinking that, right? Maybe it's a Gilgul of some neshama. I could tell you a crazy story that happened to me when I was in yeshiva in Gateshead. I think I must have been 17 years old or something like that, but a bird kept coming into the shiur room, the Rabbi Roberts' shiur room at the back, right? And I was there when somebody said, Machulach, 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 and the bird got up and flew towards the window, except the window was closed. It hit the window and died right there. Okay? The holiest I think I ever felt, right? In my teenage years, right? Ooh, we said Machalach and killed a bird. I don't know, right? Anyhow, they did that to this bird. They go, Machulach, Machulach, Machulach. You're good. Go, whoever you are, you're forgiven. Gilgul neshama. Nothing helped. They went to Mekubalim, threw salt over their shoulders, all the good stuff that you could do, right? Nothing helped. Wave the lulav on it, and whatever it was you could do, it wouldn't go away. Okay? So this guy, by the way, was a bit of a holy Jew. And he went to the kotel, and he said, Hashem, I know you're sending me a message, I get that. I just have no clue what the message is. No clue. And he went to the kotel to pray for a Yeshua. Listen to this. He goes to the kotel, and as he's standing at the kotel, this tells you how holy this man is, right? As he's standing at the kotel, he remembers a Gemara about Rabbi Yonatan ben Uziel. What happened to him when birds used to fly over him? Very good. Very good. Gemara tells us that when the birds, he was so holy, a fire would be above him, that if birds would fly through him, or over that airspace above his head, they would be burnt. So he thought to himself, at the kotel, as he's deep in meditation, that maybe something in Yonatan ben Uziel is the answer. So I'm going to look at Targum Yonatan. Listen. That week's parasha was Parashat Metzorah. And he opened up Yonatan ben Uziel and he looked at the Pasuk, Perek Yudalet Pasuk Zayin. You know when the Metzorah does his process of purification, he brings two birds, right? And the Pasuk there says, one of the birds you set free. Okay? There's a big metaphor there for us, right? Which means speech is incredibly powerful. When you set it free, it has to be set free in a very positive manner. And you understand, your words coming into this world have a huge effect. What you say, how you behave, how you speak to a child. It matters a lot. I'm not going to start talking about Lashon Harana, you get it, right? Yonatan ben Uziel says, if a person is supposed to be stricken by tzarat again, after being stricken with it once, the bird will return. That bird he set free, Targum Yonatan ben Uziel says that. This guy goes home, looks at this pasuk, this is the first one he plumped on, and he says, a bird returned. Come on, that's talking to me. He says, I should be chayav tzarat of some sort. This is what I didn't say, but this is the message. And he racked his brain to try and understand what was going on here. And he came to a conclusion. By the way, this story took place right before Shavuot. His daughter had got married just after Purim. My daughter just got married after Purim. He used to learn with his family 2 halachot of Shmirat Halashon a day. I send out a little clip every single day, 2 minutes a day, to many groups. Anyone on YouTube, if you want, send me a comment. I'll give you the link. You join. It's a beautiful thing. Self-promotion is not a bad thing, right? Right? He realized that in the busyness of preparing a wedding, the busyness of Purim, etc., the lead up to Pesach, Shiva Barachot. We finished Shiva Barachot and it was less than a week till Pesach, just about a week till Pesach. In Bli Hara, we had other weddings to celebrate that same week, Baruch Hashem. It was busy. He had stopped learning those halachot of Shmirat Halashon in his home. And he said to himself, maybe it's so holy, it's so precious. The Chavetz Chaim says you have to study the laws, otherwise you're not going to be able to have good speech. He said, I'm going to start those halachot again. For over a month, this bird came incessantly tapping on his window. He learned those 2 halachot with his family that night. The bird never came back. And he resumed his halacha of learning of Shmirat Halashon every day. When you talk about Ze'ut, you want to tell me, you think Hashem cares that I listened to a 2-minute clip from Rabbi Roberts? Yeah, I'm going to tell you Hashem cares. Ze'ut Rosh, there's more to say. But as we stand here about to be Mekabel Torah together in a few days' time, realize that we are part of an Am HaNivchar. What are the opening words of this week's parasha? Tell us, Ze'ut Rosh, realize that you have an epic opportunity, but double-edged sword. And responsibility. You matter deeply to the Jewish people, how you behave. You can forgive one person and Yeshua can come the same day. You can resume learning one little thing that you thought so little of, and something physically can change in this world. I have more to say, but I'm going to pause here. Just note that your self-esteem matters. Ze'ut Rosh, lift the heads of Klal Yisrael. Every single person. Yes, they may be encamped in different areas. They may be flying different color flags, but you have to understand what's their central theme. The Mishkan, encamped around that thing. What was the most central to it? The Aron. What was inside the Aron, the Torah that we so adhere to? This is who we are as a people. Be it Chana, be it forgiving somebody, be it praying for soldiers, praying for a sick person in our community, whatever it may be. Hashem should give a fuah shlema to them all. Hashem, we should understand how precious it is. Ashreinu. Matov chelkenu. Ki lekach tov natati lachem. Hashem says, this is good for you, Torati. Al ta'azovu. Never forsake this incredible power, this incredible gift, because this is what makes us truly, truly special. I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful Chag Sameach, Chag Kasher v'Sameach, B'ezrat Hashem, a real Kabbalat Torah, which means we have to re-energize our commitment to Torah, our commitment to learning Torah, which makes us into a fundamentally different people. And B'ezrat Hashem, the Zechutim will flow, the good news will flow, and B'ezrat Hashem we will have only good news for all of Am Yisrael. B'ezrat Hashem. Thank you so much.